What's going on, everybody? My name is Ohara, and today we're gonna talk about the latest developments in One Piece. As a quick disclaimer, I'm basing this review off of the original Japanese version of the chapter and not the English translation. This way I think we're independent of any scans or even the official translation, and I also think that this way I can give you some additional insights into the raw text and dialogue of the story. Nonetheless, please keep in mind that while I'm quite comfortable with reading the text, as with any other version, my translation and interpretation of certain scenes might not be 100% bulletproof, and there might be other interpretations for this. Now, that being said, with this chapter, I think there was very little room for ambiguity, and so without any further ado, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of chapter 986 of One Piece. Now, the first thing I think we have to address here is the quote from one of Oda's editors in a recent livestream. Now, in case you don't know what happened, because you're a smart enough person not to have a Twitter account, basically the editor said that reading the latest chapter he got from Oda made him cry, and that it was the first time that this ever happened to him. Now, I personally am not a very big fan of statements like these, because I think that the chapters should be able to speak for themselves. And if you build the expectation for something this intensely, and it doesn't end up blowing me away, I just know that it will feel disappointing, even if the chapter itself is actually pretty well written and would have worked just fine on its own. Now, that being said though, it wasn't a major announcement by the editor or anything, but simply something that came up during that stream, and so I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt here. So now that we're all on the same page, I think what we can all agree on is that this chapter was probably not the chapter he was talking about, and that it'll be most likely 987 or 88 that we should be looking out for. Nonetheless, 986 was a fantastic and strongly entertaining chapter with an incredible climax that without any doubt had some serious emotion in it as well. However, nothing I would personally consider cry material yet. If I had to pick a theme for this chapter, I would probably come up with samurai-ish, because the entire vibe and dialogue here is very focused around what it means to be a samurai, and many scenes, especially those surrounding the Scabbards and Momo, carry a certain sense of honor and loyalty. This already becomes clear in the title of the chapter, which is Seisha no namae, meaning my name. Seisha is the pronoun that samurai use to refer to themselves, pretty much meaning I or me, and is used by Momo later on in this chapter. This will be important, I think, since this chapter is a big moment in Momo's character arc, and the language he uses here definitely plays a part in hammering that home. Also, as a quick comment on the cover page, Lola and Chiffon leaving Pound behind, still not believing he's their father, is getting sort of tiresome to me at this point. What on earth was the reason for reintroducing him here, if not to reunite him with his daughters? Also, Beige's ship saying "I love family" on its sail while leaving the devastated Pound behind was unnecessarily cruel of Oda, and it really broke my heart. Oh well, moving on. The chapter starts off at the back entrance to the Skull Dome, where last chapter we got a glimpse of Kiku and her bloody sword crying out of her mask. There was a lot of speculation going around this scene, but it turns out the most straightforward answer was the correct one here. Kanjuro lies on the ground, unmoving and in a puddle of blood. Kinemon and Denjiro have also arrived with their men and are now walking over Kanjuro's apparently dead body with a pained look on their face. You can clearly see how much he meant to all of them and how hard it must have been for them to kill a man whom they all believe to be part of their family. Izo says pretty much the same thing to them, and Kinemon as well as Denjiro are shocked to see him here. Similarly to Kanjuro, Kinemon asks Izo if he's fine with coming all this way to the place he will most likely die at, to which Izo responds that he's a man that has escaped certain death many times, striking a more hopeful and optimistic note here. Izo's and Kinemon's handshake, meanwhile, looks fantastic to me. Their faces carry such a great amount of appreciation for each other that it's really hard not to crack a smile at this point. So what about Kanjuro? Well, as of right now, him and Orochi have been taken out. And while it was indeed the Scabbards this time who killed Kanjuro, we did not get to see it. Now, with Kanjuro, similar to Orochi, the chances of him truly being dead are relatively slim, I think. Kanjuro, in my opinion, needs at least some sort of redemption arc, even if he should not survive the overall battle. For instance, him protecting Momo in the end would be something that I would really love to see for his character, but even next to that, I think that his character is way too interesting to kill off right here, right now. And I have an idea or two what might really have happened here. While the reunited scabbards head into the dome and towards the plaza, Kaido's 5 seconds that he granted to the samurai to consider their fate have seemingly run out, and he asks them to choose right now. Die by the side of their master, or take over the world with him. And without hesitating so much as even a second, Fukuro Kuju from the Oniwabanchu Ninja Squad, as well as the former leader of the Yakuza and general of the samurai, Hote, pledged their loyalty and 5,000 men each to Kaido and his course. It becomes very clear just how little any of them truly cared for Orochi, and that none of them held any true loyalty whatsoever for him. Pretty unsamurai-ish behavior, considering honor and loyalty are so important for a samurai. Nonetheless, they first betrayed Oden, and then abandoned Orochi the moment he was taken down. Apparently, Hyogoro thinks along the same lines, as his men can barely restrain him in his rage at this behavior. And what I believe makes this scene even more comical is that Kaido apparently expected something different from the samurai as well. He tells them that he is well aware of the deep loyalty that samurai have and that he would praise them for challenging him. This makes their immediate response just the more hilarious in my opinion. But at the same time, Oda also shows us that this is the worst version of a samurai, which basically represents the opposite of what the scabbards feel for Oden and Momo. However, it of course also falls back to the differences in leadership between Orochi and Oden, and how only one of them actually managed to inspire true trust and loyalty in their men. Now, at the bottom of the stage, Nami and Carrot have been brought before Big Mom. However, Shinobu has somehow managed to escape the Emperor and is now on her way towards Momo. Similarly to us, she recognizes that, just as Oden had said, taking out Orochi would change nothing. Right from the start, Kaido had been the one that had Wano in his grip. Kaido tells Momo that he could never believe that he was the son of the Kozuki Oden. However, should he truly be his heir, he would end the line of the Kozuki right now with this execution. However, if he were not, he would stop the execution at this point. And once again, he asks the question that he asked Momo back in the castle, "What is your name?" Because back then, Momo was way too scared to answer. Kaido's men immediately see through their captain's plan to have Momo denounce himself as the future shogun and cheer for Momo to come up with a funny fake name. In this moment, Momo remembers the past, his mother telling him that he will be the one to carry Wano on his back, and his father revealing the meaning of his name to him. Momo, the one who is unequaled and peerless. It's this name that he shouts into the crowd. He is Kozuki Momonosuke, and remembering Luffy, he's also the man who will become shogun of Wano. Then, a second later, Momo, very understandably, starts crying in terror. However, I think this scene is really powerful. Momo truly has grown with the situation, and has managed to defy Kaido and fill Oden's shoes a little bit more. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Momo is using the typical pronoun for samurai here. This, I believe, is one of these instances where language matters, as Oda uses it to drive home the point that Momo has become a bit more like a samurai here, behaving bravely and saving his honor, despite risking his life. I think for me, this moment is the final proof that Momo probably won't end up traveling with Luffy and the crew, but truly is meant by Oda to grow into the position of shogun and rule Wano. I believe that Onigashima has been a very strong character arc for him so far, and I'm really curious to see how it continues. Now, at the same time as this, we see the Straw Hats, the Scabbards, the Flying Six, Law, and Kid all on their way to the stage, and Usopp leading the charge into the battle is just a wonderful moment for his character here. The same goes for Luffy and Yamato, where Luffy finally has had the chance to take off her handcuffs. On a quick side note here, Luffy calls Yamato Yama-O here, which is the same naming scheme he does with Law and Kid, and I personally take it to mean that Luffy has already started to like her, and my hopes for Yamato for Nakama are as high as ever. Yamato tells him to throw the cuffs away, just in case, and they explode with such force that it blows a hole in the wall of the arena. These cuffs seem to have been way more powerful than the ones worn by the slaves on Sabaody, and Yamato is shocked that her father would actually have killed her. A pretty funny detail here is that she calls Kaido Ushigorira, which literally means ox gorilla, a name that is weirdly fitting to Kaido. And it is here that Yamato denounces him as her father and says that he's nothing to her now. Before she can storm towards Kaido, however, Luffy stops her. He says that the decisive battle is about to start, but it's not going to be started by them. And to me, it looks like Luffy has used a bit of his future side hockey here, because similarly to how Katakuri saw the raid at the tea party happening, Luffy can tell that the scabbards are here just moments before they burst into the room. Kaido and the three calamities are taken aback, and Izo, who's already 10 times more interesting than at Marineford to me, disarms King with just one shot, while Nekomamushi slams Kaido's club from his hands. And with that, all of the scabbards charge towards Kaido with 3 thoughts in their mind. Throw away your name, throw away your reason, and put your very life into this one attack. And with that, they push Kaido from the stage, screaming "Snatch!" while one of the Beast Pirates cries, "It's a raid!" What a finale to this chapter. This might be one of my favorite double spreads in Wano so far, and that's saying something. And while I think that the chance that Kaido is killed here is exactly 0, I nonetheless love the scene here. The fact that the raid more or less succeeded in the way they expected to really has something weirdly satisfying to it. And even more so, it will be just the more impactful once all of the scabbards will fail to kill Kaido, since their plan actually went way better than expected. Even under perfect circumstances, and with a united effort, they will not be able to take him out. And I really wonder what will happen next. Will there be a really big battle, or will it be a quick defeat for the Alliance? Things are getting more and more unpredictable here, and giving the statement of the editor, something major will happen next chapter, and I think the most likely answer will be one or maybe even several deaths. Also, the fact that the scabbards are shouting "Snatch" and the way Kaido sees Oden's face before him are just perfect in my opinion. And I'm really excited to see what Kaido is like when someone actually challenges him and his plans. And most importantly, I'm really excited to see everyone's reaction to Yamato and her appearance as Oden. I really am getting some goosebumps thinking about it. Tragedy incoming. One other thing I really enjoyed about this chapter was the immense focus on body language and close-ups in this chapter. It really worked fantastically to create a sense of intensity and emotional depth. The way many of the panels were arranged here really helped to raise the stakes of the raid for me, and I personally am 110% invested now in this battle. This chapter alone has done a lot of the characterization for the scabbards that was missing a little from Oden's flashback, and I'm fully on board with this. Without any doubt, this is building towards an epic moment next chapter. And speaking of epic moments in One Piece, what is the most iconic moment in the entire story for you? If you're like me and you can't really decide, I have just the thing for you. I just started a new series of videos revisiting the best moments of the story. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check it out here. Thanks guys, peace.